Hi, I'm Darren and welcome to New Factory Classics. Today we're going to break down The Nutty Professor. This piece of art begins with Eddie Murphy in whiteface doing his impression of Richard Simmons. And if you find that offensive, just be glad he's not doing a current rendition of Richard Simmons. Professor Sherman Klump is a genius. He works at a university and heads many of their experiments, though being extremely obese has made him have very little self-confidence. Sherman's current experiment is to help hamsters lose weight. Unfortunately, an accident happened last night and pure mayhem went across the university when thousands of hamsters attacked everyone. Sherman's prized hamster is Shelly, a massively overweight hamster that he's testing new drugs to make her lose weight. If all goes well, Shelly will soon lose all that extra weight and become a very thin hamster. Of course, she'll still be trapped in a cage, but she'll be thinly trapped in that cage. Now, the dean is very annoyed about all the hamster chaos this morning. The school even lost one of their benefactors. He continuously insults Sherman's weight, something that was apparently allowed in the 90s. The dean lets Sherman know that unless he helps them court a new benefactor, he will be out of a job. And finally, he finishes the meeting by insulting Sherman's weight a few more times. Yes, it seems that the world has overlooked Sherman's genius and only is focusing on his weight. Even his students don't take him seriously. Luckily for him, the love of his life just walked in the door, Miss Carla Purdy, played by Jada Pinkett Smith, a woman in real life who knows how to make relationships thrive. And if you disagree with her, she'll bang your son's friend and make you talk about it on live TV. Miss Purdy's the new professor down the hall, and she's been following Sherman's career for many years. He's super nervous to meet somebody so pretty. Miss Purdy has certainly caught his eye, and he comments on her ass as she walks out of the room. Sherman has dinner with his family that night. They're all massively obese, and they just make a bunch of crass jokes all night, just burping, farting, and talking about sex. It's a real clean family dinner. They all are mad that he's trying to lose weight. Sherman needs to eat and grow like everyone else. He needs to eat part of the 25,000 calorie meal that his mother prepared. The scene breaks down to different versions of Eddie Murphy yelling at himself and farting. Basically what these videos are before I edit them. After dinner, Sherman goes to Miss Purdy's house. He looked up her address in the directory, which is super chill. Boys, listen to me. If there's a new girl at work that you like, just look up her address and show up there the first night she starts working. She will absolutely fall in love with you. After enjoying some fourth meal, Sherman falls asleep to infomercials and love stories. Unfortunately, he has a nightmare where he kills Miss Purdy while having a makeout session. Somehow showing up to her house actually works, and Sherman has a date with Miss Purdy on Friday night, so he works out all week. He wants to be as thin as possible for Miss Purdy on Friday. This may be Sherman's one chance at love, or at least one chance with the woman who loved Tupac more than her own husband. On Friday night, Sherman takes Miss Purdy to the Scream, a local club, and he's telling her all about his research. She's super into it. They're having the perfect date. That is until insult comedian Reggie comes out, who makes fun of everyone in the audience, and he does 5 minutes of fat jokes about Sherman. And while Miss Purdy thanks him for the date, Sherman is depressed. He goes home and gorges himself on food, and eats until he falls asleep. Eventually, he has another nightmare where he becomes Godzilla and destroys the town. So far, the Nutty Professor isn't so nutty and really just dealing with morbid obesity and depression. What a zany film. So Sherman decides to work out, lose weight by dieting and exercise. He's going to lose weight the correct way. No, I'm kidding. He's really just going to go to his lab and drink as much of that medicine that he's been giving Shelly and see what happens. He takes the serum, starts shaking, and passes out. But who stands back up? The natural-looking Eddie Murphy. Yes, he somehow instantaneously lost 200 pounds. A completely different situation than what was going on with Shelly, who was losing a percentage a day. He's too excited to realize that his experiment technically failed. There's a montage of a new thin Sherman enjoying his thin life. He also goes to a workout class and sexually harasses every woman there. Miss Purdy comes by the lab. She's here to check on Sherman. After that really horrible date the other night, she's worried if he's okay. Of course, she runs into the new thin version of Sherman, who introduces himself to her as Buddy Love. And if you think you've seen this 90s trope before, you probably did. Steve Urkel turned into Stefan Urkel 2.5 years before this movie came out. Buddy asks out Purdy. He's thin, she's thin, they should go hit the town together. The serum eventually runs out though and he becomes fat again. It seems that Sherman didn't actually create a weight loss drug, he created some sort of potion that transforms you for a few hours. Either way, Sherman decides that it's better to take Miss Purdy out as Buddy than himself. She wouldn't want somebody to kill her during sex. Buddy shows up an hour late to his date with Miss Purdy, but here's something that needs to be made clear. The serum ups their testosterone, but Buddy is basically Sherman, just with more balls. Sherman was kind of a jerk the entire time, and he even talked about women behind their back. But with Buddy, he doesn't have those layers of lovable fat to cover him up, so he can be an asshole straight to your face. The comedian Reggie comes out and he starts out with the same joke that he did the other night. Life must be hard for a stand-up comedian that's basically a clown in a small college town. Buddy decides to get his revenge on behalf of Sherman and starts making fun of Reggie. Yes, unhindered by his previous weight and guilt, Buddy can really lay into the small-town comic. Take that. Reggie gets mad when Buddy for some reason walks onto stage and he asks him to leave. When Buddy refuses to leave, Reggie tries to hit him. They end up getting in a fight, and Buddy eventually beats up the comic and throws him into a grand piano. Apparently the security at the Scream really sucks, and now they're going to have to buy a new grand piano to sit next to insult comics when they come out and yell at the audience. Miss Purdy is super turned on by the assault of the comic, and she wants to make out with Buddy right there in their booth. And she would have kept going if it wasn't for the fact that Buddy was turning back into Sherman, so he had to run away from their date. While fleeing from the date, Buddy is chased down by his lab assistant, who saw that he was using Sherman's credit card. They both get in the car and speed away, but when he turns fully back into Sherman, the weight comes back and it breaks the axle. This implies that it's not a density issue, but a true weight loss and weight reemergence issue. Apparently, Sherman created magic. Apparently, the car that Buddy rented for his date was actually registered to the college, so he's actually a thief. Yes, embezzling a $47,000 car for a date isn't as much nutty as it's just stupid. The dean makes it clear that not only will he be fired, but he will straight up murder Sherman if he doesn't get this new benefactor to give them that check for $10 million. But forget that, Sherman's in love with Miss Purdy, who's been on a date with two versions of him, both of which only lasted an hour, but this is true love. Sherman asks Miss Purdy over for dinner, and they immediately ask her if Sherman and her are banging. And when they find out that they haven't slept together, the family suggests that they do. Even Grandma says that she had sex with every person who ever took her out on a date. The next 5 minutes devolves into talks about sex, farting, eating, burping, and more sex again. And it turns out Sherman's family was very pro-LGBT, which kind of makes sense if you know what Eddie Murphy was into back at that time. Miss Purdy tells Sherman that he's a great friend, but she's into Buddy. Sherman decides to forget the proposal to the benefactor. He's going to take the serum and bed Miss Purdy. So he locks his lab assistant in the closet and takes the serum, off to go have sex with his love. Buddy and Miss Purdy head to the Ritz-Carlton, the same building where the presentation was going to be. Why he picked that hotel, I'll never know. But because he's in that hotel, the dean forces him to go make the presentation to the benefactor. So Buddy makes his presentation in the Ritz-Carlton. He wows the benefactor. What does he do? He calls everyone fat and then starts trying to sexually harass every woman there. Well, Miss Purdy has had it with Buddy. If he's going to be an asshole, she'll date someone else. Someone more passive, someone like Sherman or Will Smith. Really anyone that she can embarrass on live TV. Buddy ends up throwing a party that night and seduces 3 women. And these women are pretty chill because they wake up next to Sherman and don't seem to care. Sherman is fired and replaced by Buddy. He's the one who showed up to the benefactor's presentation, and he looks a lot better. And apparently the college just hires anyone who claims to have a doctorate. They don't run social security numbers. They don't even look for driver's licenses. Buddy decides he's done with Sherman. He's going to take so much of the serum that he will become Buddy forever. He'll drink so much serum at the presentation for the check that not only will he become Buddy forever, but he'll secure the position at the college. He assaults his lab assistant again, drinks a bunch of the serum, and then starts sexually harassing several elderly women. Buddy gets on stage and starts drinking as much serum as possible, but then the last little bit of Sherman starts to fight back, and he ends up fighting himself, scaring everyone in the crowd. Seeing someone gain 300 pounds, lose 300 pounds, slap themselves, choke themselves, punch themselves, really made the value of the dinner cost go up. Sherman eventually defeats Buddy, and he proves that even though he's fat, he's a genius. So the grant is given for some reason. Yes, he's forgiven for everything. For stealing, for assaulting people, for sexually harassing every woman he ran into. He is for some reason even forgiven for dating Jada Pinkett Smith. Purdy walks up to Sherman and admits that she loves him. No further explanation is given. So for some reason, it looks like everything worked out for our Nutty Professor. And now I have seen it, so you don't have to. Please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you.